Our next speaker is Blyden Potts, who is from Shippensburg and who wishes to discuss regionality and crowdsourcing. Good evening, Mr. Potts. You're muted, or we can't hear you for some other reason.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the Commission for the opportunity to make these remarks. I'm making remarks as a citizen of Pennsylvania and as someone who has drawn a number of redistricting maps, a few of which have won awards in contests held by Draw the Lines. I want to speak mainly on two things: regionality, and I'm very happy to be following Ardith's testimony on that topic, and also advocate for using crowdsourcing in the redistricting process. But before I talk about either of those, I want to briefly remind everybody of something that may seem a little bit obvious, which is when it comes to redistricting, looks matter. There, of course, are metrics for lots of the criteria that we can use and that we want to use in the redistricting process. But public perception of a redistricting plan comes primarily in a visual form. They're looking at a map. They're seeing what the image tells them. The image doesn't give them metrics. It doesn't show them how even or uneven the populations of those districts are. It doesn't show them the distribution of party affiliation. It doesn't show them how competitive the districts are. What it does show them, what they can see at a glance, at least if they're somewhat informed about what they're looking for, are splits. Are there county splits? Are there municipal splits? How compact are the districts? Are there crazy shapes that suggest gerrymandering? And also, how clean are the boundary lines? How sort of even, smooth, straight line are they? For better or worse, those are the qualities that are most going to influence how the public judges the map. Does it pass the eye test? All right, so I'd like to talk about regionality. Beyond compactness, clean lines, and splits, another thing that people can perceive simply by looking at the map is whether it fits their intuitive idea of what makes sense, whether the districts are sensible districts. And I think for most people, most of the time, what that boils down to is something I call regionality. And regionality is a lot like the idea of community of interest, but with communities of interest, you get the sense that they could be smaller than the district, that they're little communities within districts or across districts if the districts aren't drawn with attention to the communities of interest. Regionality, on the other hand, is the idea that the district itself is a community, is a natural community, and that somehow there's shared political interests across within that district. And the natural communities exist where there are shared institutions, whether they're shared economy, shared linguistic and cultural practices, shared media markets, shared communities of interest, shared membership in the same political units, the very kinds of things that Ardith was just talking about in the division of Bucks County into upper, middle, and lower. She's talking about the different institutions and how these are very different. These people have very different realities. Those realities should be manifested, they should be reflected in the districting process, and not just in Bucks County, but all across the state. I mean, I live in Shippensburg, and because we straddle the county line here, we often get divided up into multiple districts, and maybe we get attached to a district from Perry County, which we have to go over a mountain to get to Perry County, which is kind of crazy. In addition to those shared institutions, the biggest thing is whether there's sort of a shared regional identity. Do the people feel like they belong together? And those things are all shaped also, I should say, by geography, by land features, waterways, et cetera, especially where geography causes natural breaks in the population distribution. When I try to make maps with strong regionality, often I get a highly detailed map of the population distribution, population density, in Pennsylvania. And what I'm looking for in that map is where are the breaks between little clusters of the dots? You know, where is there a sparse population separating clusters? So I always suggest to the commission that you look for regionality in the maps. Now, the third point, or second major point really that I want to talk about is I want to advocate for crowdsourcing the redistricting process. The days are gone where a few pundits and some media are all that would second guess the redistricting map. We now live in an age where there's online computer apps, software that makes it easy for anybody to draw maps quickly and also to analyze maps pretty easily and compare them. And that means, in all likelihood, whatever the redistricting map is produced is potentially going to have hundreds or even thousands of other maps competing with it. And I'm sure you recognize it's absolutely crucial that the map that gets chosen not only look good, but also be quantifiably excellent in the metrics. Anything else would be an embarrassment to the state and to the committee. So how could you do that? And I also suggested, hey, we should do crowdsourcing. I saw in your comments thing, you've got a button coming soon where people will be able to submit statewide maps. So it looks like at least the start of a crowdsourcing idea is already in place, which I applaud. Thank you for that. But a further step, and maybe you've already got this one in mind also, would be to hold a contest similar to the kinds of contests that Draw the Lines holds. Have people submit maps. You'll get hundreds of maps, and if you'll get thousands of maps, you can then compare the maps on metrics. And what I would suggest is any map where there's another map or maybe another two maps that are superior on all metrics. So if there's two maps or even just one map that's better in every way, then get rid of that map and just keep the superior map. If you do that across your hundreds or thousands of maps, it presumably will only have a few dozen maps that remain. And those maps that remain, each of them will be superlative in some combination of quality, some combination of metrics. Choose your map from that set.
We're getting way over time.
Okay,
so if you can wrap up, that would be great.
Okay, choose your map from that set of superlative maps, and at the very least, it will be in the conversation among best possible maps. And also, if you did do a crowdsourcing redistricting process, it would be the utmost in accountability and transparency and democratic process. Thank you very much for hearing my remarks.
Thank you very much.